Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the weekly wrap-up. We are brought to you by WeX. Now, if you want our free scalp signals, and they have been killing it at the moment, so head to gettingstartedincrypto.com and click on the free scalp signals and fill out all the details. Sign up to WeX using my code and you will get the free signals. So welcome. What a week we have had for alts. So it's been nice. It's been lovely. And if I'm talking a bit weird today, I had braces put on my bottom teeth. I feel like a teenager again. So I had braces when I was a teenager, and now I've got braces when I'm an adult, and different reasons. Like, obviously that's because I'm like stressed or clenching my jaw or something and squishing my teeth in as a teenager. That's just to like straighten them all up. But opted for that because can't take Invisalign off more than 2 hours a day, and I'm doing filming and doing lots of stuff. So braces it was. So if I start to slur or start to sound weird, that's the reason. It's just the braces getting stuck on my lip. They've literally got put on this morning. So so hi. And with that being said, let's jump straight in to Bitcoin, have a look what we're doing and see where we're going from here, because we've got a pivotal point. We've got a few big players saying top's in. I've been saying we don't know if the top's in. I still think we don't know if the top's in. We're still in that range where it could be in, it may not be in, and we'll look at it. So let's jump in. I put my glasses on so that I can see where we are going. Now, Bitcoin had a bit of a drop. We came back down. We're sitting we dipped under 100K just for 2 seconds, and now we're back up. So we're sitting at 106. We've touched the pivot. Now we need to pass that. We can't just touch the pivot and sort of sit there. We need to actually pass that for this to continue to be bullish. Now, for this to not be bullish, I'm going to go up to and break through all of that. So make sure I tell you guys this every week. So there's 57 of you at the moment watching. By the end of this, there's normally about 500 to 1,000 people watching. Smash the like button so that this gets to more people. And, so they can see my awesome TA. That's not tits and ass. That's technical analysis. And that you guys know what's happening in the market. Because I'd like to think with all my years and years of experience, like you get some pretty good information here at no cost. So, yeah. So hi, Robbie, in the chat. And hi, Liz, in the chat. So let's have a look where we are, whether we're over, whether 1,064 days is the end. And every year, every 4-year cycle, we're just going to go 1,064 days. Thank you. I'm taking my profit and I'm out of here. But so this wave 4 can climb as high as this range. We've got a pivot that drops down to here, which is 106,610. So this is the bullish pivot in this region. Then we've got a couple more. That's the really important one. That will tell us if we're going up to the next pivot, which is 113,551. Next pivot after that, 119,761. I feel like I'm doing bingo when I give all those numbers. But obviously, if we do pull back, we can go as low as 73 down at this point. That's potentially our wave 1 high, and it's pretty much where we came down at this point as well. So we did hold that. Do we have 5 waves here and that's the end and we're correcting? We don't know yet. There's a hard support around the sort of 80K mark if we're coming back. But before that, we've got a diagonal support sitting at 89. And if we go trend sideways, the low might be 97. So there's quite a few different scenarios here as to whether, top's in, it's not in. If this is the start of a new impulse, though, it does kind of need to hold around the 96,700. So that region needs to hold for this to be really viable. And then if we're coming back down, and this is the start of the next third wave impulse, it can come as low as that 73 mark without breaking pattern, and then absolutely take off and blast through. So if this is going into like a larger pattern wave 3, which I have thought for quite some time, and it is showing at the moment that the market momentum might be having a shift. We've got, as you would have seen if you're on X, this morning, I've put in about the repo stuff. I've spoken about this a few times in articles, in sort of different things that I've posted on X. Now, this is the funding and the daily money that gets moved around. So, and that rate's just gone a little bit higher, which means liquidity is a bit low at the moment. So that means that it comes usually out of risk assets. We've seen that happen. Now, there's been a couple of government injections into repo money. So when that happens, it does mean that the tides are starting to shift. We're also seeing Trump say there's a 2,000 stimulus coming. So that, when we look back to what happened with COVID, we saw this massive decline in March 2020, which was our COVID low. And then we saw this massive run. So if this is going into a wave 3 of 3, which it's kind of lining up for that, then we're holding those levels. That stimulus is going to come in. The repo money is going to start moving out of repos and into bonds and into sort of back into the government. Then we're going to see that wave 3 of 3 really start moving. If we start breaking lower pivots, that's when we go, okay, 1,064 days, BTC is at the top. Maybe we've got some alts that are still going to run. We're seeing that at the moment. Maybe ETH is, got a little bit of life left in it. But at the moment, we're waiting for BTC to break this pivot at 106,627. That's the first major pivot there in orange. And the next one, we don't want it to pull back below 103, because if it pulls back below that 103,800 pivot, then it's likely testing the next pivot lower, which is 96,700. So one step at a time as it comes backwards. So yeah, so that's what BTC is doing at the moment. I'm getting heaps of questions like everywhere. Is the top in? Should I be taking profit? What should I be doing? This is a part where, if your stop losses got hit in those last sort of movements down where we saw the 20% sort of fallout, then, literally you would be sort of having small bites of this at the moment, not going all in, because it's a really uncertain area. And, you're just sort of dabbling in the, the alts and that sort of stuff at the moment. Maybe not you're in BTC, maybe not you're in ETH, but you're definitely sort of, filtering some money through some alts, because there were some really good patterns at the moment and there's some really good movements on those. BTC, I still have a small position in. A lot of my major position got sold out at that top that I've been talking about at the 124. So I still do have skin in the game here, but not what I did have. When we start breaking pivots, then I'll start buying back in. And it doesn't matter if it's a little bit higher. It really doesn't matter, because you need to have that safety and security that you know which way this pattern's going, whether it's up or whether it's down. And right now, at the moment, we don't know. So there's no point going all into a market that we don't know what the direction is. We need to know what the direction is and where this is going and where it's moving and whether it's over and whether we're keeping going. So this is kind of where we're at. When we're seeing on the daily, we're seeing the MACD is starting to flip bullish. So, you know, we're sort of seeing that momentum. We're seeing the momentum shift through alts. We're seeing a lot of zombie coins. So when I say zombie coin, that means it's a dead coin. It's flat bottomed and it's sort of has gone sideways for quite some time. They're pumping at the moment because there's low liquidity. And, you know, when we talk about shit coins, this is going to sound really gross, but this is how it got like the name. So think of a shit coin. It's like diarrhea. So the less liquidity, the easier it moves, basically. So, and you know, you can get in and out. And when that starts to move and there's not a lot of movement in the market, retail follow. So the retail money comes in, these big players have already taken their profit, you're left holding dead bags again. So you've got a zombie coin. So just be careful entering those coins before, you know, you want to enter before they take off. When you're entering midway, after, sort of halfway through pattern, quite difficult, because you don't know, like, if this is just an exchange pumping this because they need financial like stuff for something, or, you know, it was whales just playing. So be super cautious with that, especially knowing the patterns, knowing where it's at in that pattern and why you're entering that coin, not just because, oh, it's got a big green dildo, I'm going to enter now. That doesn't work. That is not a strategy. So yeah, just be aware. So hopefully in the next day or so, we break that on BTC. Super slow at the moment. Normally when we're slow, it does mean maybe we're getting a pullback. So we do want that 103 to hold. BLX is still in this very, like, is it this way? Is it that way? Kind of three directions. We're standing at the crossroads. So I do think we're going to know very, very soon, like, which way we're going. And I keep saying that every week, but I don't think we can hold this region for very much longer. USDT has hit the pivot at 5.73. Now this needs to keep breaking down. The pivot it needs to break down below is 4.72. So when 4.72 breaches, we do know that this is going into that 3 going down. So we want that to happen. So prayers that USDT declines or moves into it like up and down Elliott wave pattern that essentially goes more down than up. So that's kind of what's happening at the moment. I've got Lone Wolf in the chat saying that he's praying for VET. I'll have a look at that for you after. And yeah, so many people in this market. So this is the crazy thing about this crypto market, this run. We've had a lot lower sort of profits than what we've been used to over the, you know, 10, 15 years of this market. You know, obviously we got used to some sort of like, you know, extra big profits and, you know, alts that moved 700% in a day. That didn't happen. We have regulations that came in. We have watchdogs that are watching. So, you know, crypto's maturing. I did say that would happen in this run. We still got 800, 900% from the bottom on Bitcoin. So it's still, you know, it's huge when you compare that to traditional markets. You know, we're seeing a lot of like, you know, AI and that sort of thing, Nvidia and those sort of traditional stuff really have like exploded. So, you know, if you diversified your portfolio and you had that sort of stuff, then you would be doing massively awesome. But yeah, so it's just about now the skill really comes into this market. It comes into who knows their stuff, who's trading with, care and caution, especially with the leverage trading, because, when you're looking at a 20% dip and you're like, but I only had a 5 times margin. And I did a video on this. It's on X and on YouTube if you haven't seen it. So, 20 times, 5 times, you're 100% liquidated. So yeah, it was safe as far as many people call it, but leverage trading wasn't designed to go just 10 times on your entire balance. It's there to protect your capital. You enter like with a max sort of 3%, and even that's a lot sort of more risky than what is recommended of your total entire balance in isolated, not in cross. So make sure you're not putting cross when you're going in, because that's then taking all of the money from all of your other assets that you might have in that exchange as well. So, there's a couple of lessons that a lot of big lessons that a lot of people have learned. Another one is like links. Don't click links. Don't give out, your keys. Don't give out your codes. Don't give out any of that sort of stuff, because, at the end of the day, there's, people click on links, they get their wallets all extracted. And there's so much of that happening in the moment, like from people that have been here a long time as well. It's still happening. So just be extra cautious, because everyone wants your crypto without having to trade it, without having to buy it. They just want the easy way. They're just scammers. They're just going to come in and do that. So I digress, but it's something that I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, especially as it gets harder with the market moving slower. So DXY has had a bounce. It's got 5 waves. It's more than likely pulling back. We want it to break down past the low, which is 96.22. I'm just going to pull this down a little bit. 96.23. Want it to break down there and go to 94. This might happen if we get the stimulus. It sort of congests down that way. So that's what we want to see. BTC dominance has had a bit of a pullback. I do think we're going to get a bit of a move. It hasn't completed pattern, so it's probably still got another slight move up, which will cause alts to pull back in probably later this week. Total still under, held the 3.2, but still under that 3.81 trillion. Now we've just broke a pivot here for this wave. So that's a really strong move. And it looks like we're going to continue up and see that pivot at that 3.81. So fingers crossed that continues. We continue to see liquidity coming into the market. It is starting to slow down though. So I've been watching the repos. If you're in getting started in crypto, it's been part of the Bitcoin and ETH daily update. So something to watch. There's a full explanation in there as well as to why that's so important at the moment. So for anyone that's in getting started in crypto, make sure you check out that education section on the repos. So, and how liquidity works at this point of the market. ETH is coming up. So we've just passed a pivot on ETH, which is nice. We've got another one sitting at 3,700, sorry. And then the next major pivot is sitting at 4,107. So that's the next major one that needs to move and break. ETH has been a lot slower than BTC and alts at the moment. A lot more sort of skin in the game, so a lot harder to move it. A lot more liquidity needs to come into BTC and to ETH to move them either way. ETH BTC keeps coming back down. I don't think this support is valid anymore. We've probably got a new support at this region that we're sort of playing with, and a resistance now at this point, which ETH is just sitting there. So when we go back to the USDT pair, we've just sort of hit that pivot, or just about to hit that pivot, which is essentially on ETH BTC. We're just about to hit that resistance. So if ETH BTC breaks through here, ETH USDT will break through as well on that pivot. So that's kind of how it works, because these are paired. ETH BTC is obviously paired against BTC, and it's got the seesaw effect. So we want that to continue to break through. That means that ETH has got more strength than BTC. BTC will continue to slide sideways, or maybe have a minor pullback. So that's kind of what's happening at the moment. So I'm going to jump into some alt requests, but first I'm going to give you a 30-second clip for getting started in crypto. And if you want to check us out, please head to gettingstartedincrypto.com, and I'm there every day. So if you want charts, you want information, you want advice, I'm there. So here's the ad. And welcome back. All right, now I've got a lot more people watching, so please smash the like button, leave me a comment. You know, even if you hate the show, leave me a comment. It all helps, regardless. Hopefully you don't hate the show. Hopefully you love this information. You come here and you watch it on a Monday, and it helps you with your decisions for the week ahead. So that's my aim anyway, so you can understand the market a little bit better. Now, also, again, I'm going to let you know, head to gettingstartedincrypto.com. That's my business. That's where we put all the signals, and we have free signals, free scalp signals. They're brought to you by WeX. So head to Getting Started in Crypto, click the free scalp signals, fill out the form, and you'll get access to those signals by using the WeX code. So it's that simple. And, you know, if you don't want to do the market yourself, that's a way of doing it. So let's jump into some quests. We've got Litecoin. Now, I've had a request for this through Getting Started in Crypto, and one of the members has asked for targets for the end of the year. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't give you that. That is solely dependent on what Bitcoin does, whether that 2000 stimulus is a thing, whether more liquidity comes into the market. There's so many factors that go into this part of the market. We're coming to the top end of the market where, you know, we're at the end of the 4-year cycle, and this is potentially, we're going into a bear cycle next year. So, you know, Trump is trying to avoid that by doing that stimulus. Whether that works, we don't know. So I can give you some ideas of where I think Litecoin might be headed, but I can't give you targets, unfortunately. So at the moment, we have a pivot on Litecoin that hasn't been broken. We have 5 waves. We had hang on. Let me just get my pivot here at 124. Now we have had a full correction down. So I'm going to go up to the daily. Where you can see we're kind of, you know, trending sideways on this. We've had several touches. Obviously, if you've been here quite a while, the 4th touch is pivotal. So that's the make or break. So if Litecoin comes back down, retests that 786 at about between 79 to 77, that's the point where we know bullish or bearish. If it breaks down, it's more than likely this is over for Litecoin. So let us have a look at this pattern. Now I've got lots of Elliott wave on here. This was the high at this point. We've got an A, a B, and a C. potentially we've got 5 waves. We've got a really truncated wave. So was this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? We didn't break the high. It's still viable that could be a pattern. If we could still be in a corrective pattern for Litecoin. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Now that last wave crossed over, so it kind of, hits a few rules there. It is in a diagonal pattern, so we can say it was a leading diagonal. So the reason we had this big pullback is with a leading diagonal, they end where they began. So, and they normally pull back to where the diagonal comes from many like previous lows. And that has happened. So that says, okay, potentially this is a leading diagonal and this is our wave 1. So now within this pattern, we do need for this to be bullish to break 124. So we break 124, then we've got to then hit the next pivots, which are the local highs, and then we're out of the woods. So if we're going sort of along this pattern and we're looking at this, and we are doing some projections, assuming this is now in a bullish pattern and we've broken the local highs. So we've got our wave 1 for Litecoin. We've come back down. We've got our wave 2. We normally get to about 0.05 to the 618. Say we get a really bullish run because we get that 2000 stimulus and everyone goes, last time that happened, I put it in crypto and I made a killing on everything. So that happens, all right? So we're going up to the 618 at the very least, maybe the 786. So let's say we go to 618. We then have a pullback of about, we're still fairly bullish, about 50% on that wave 3. Cannot cross down past this wave 1 here, which is at the 236, 138, won't go lower than that. And then we head up. Now 786 is usually the minimum at that point. So it's about 317, may hit as high as around 384 at this point, depending on if we get a little bit higher on this one. So this is why there's so many variables that go into this. So if we go up to the 786, then we're probably coming back down only to the 0.5. We're getting a more shallow correction because we're a bit more bullish. And maybe the wave 5 goes up to the 1.236. So then we're at 463. That's a very nice move for this next third wave. So essentially that's our third wave. So we've got a wave 1, we've got this coming in, and we're about to go into that third wave, which is normally the fastest and the most explosive and moves really, really well. So that's when all the liquidity comes into the market. Everything moves really quickly, but everything sells really quickly after that. So once we get to this, point up here, that's when the market goes, oh, okay, it's getting a bit overheated. I'm going to take my profits back down probably at around 107. So that's kind of the reality of what's going to happen to the market over the next couple of months. So you want to be, if you're in these trades, if they do, big if, like everyone's prayers get answered and we get an alt season and that happens, keep your stop loss moving into profit. Keep it moving so you're securing profit. If it absolutely tanks and the market loses its ass and you're just sitting there with nothing because you didn't have a stop loss moving, this is the point in the market where you're protecting capital and you're taking profits and you're rolling it back in. That's what you need to be doing. This is a really, really strategic part of the market. And it's the only way that you're going to make any money whatsoever at the moment. So the other question was with this one was with, hang on, go out of there, BTC pair. So It's not liking me going into there. So let me go into that one. Because on Litecoin, it's got a little bit of room to move, as we saw, to get past that pivot as well. So this is a weekly chart. We're just under the 100 MA on the weekly. We've got a resistance at about 1968 on the 200. But we've got heaps of room to move on these indicators. The, MACD is looking really flatlined at the moment. So, it's got lots of movement, and momentum is possible if it can get some liquidity in. Hasn't happened at the moment. It's just sort of trending sideways, and we're sitting right underneath that 100. Get above the 100. This is starting to look a lot more interesting. It's also going to look a lot more interesting on the USDT chart. So I cannot give an end of year target, but that's the information I can give as to how that works. So for that person in at GSIC, hope that was okay, because that's all I can do. Can't do magic. Can't get my crystal ball and go, woo. Hang on, I've got crystal ball here. Let me it's actually a moonlight, but yeah, so it's a moonlight where you send your prayers for, like, if Bitcoin's going to go to the moon. Now, next request was Tao, T-A-O, Bitenza. Now, currently in a downtrend, hit the 618. So now the next move up for this one is to the 236, or just above where the pivot is at 480. Now that starts breaking. Next pivot is 532. Then we're starting to get interesting again, and that's when we go, okay, we're going into a bullish market. Everything's breaking through. So yeah, I've got a magic 8 ball. I don't know where I've put it since I've moved, but I need to pull it out again. So, and ask it what the market's doing. I've got a book, actually, the Book of Answers, and I'll run out before the end of this, and I'll get my book and I'll ask the Book of Answers and come back. So another one, useless. So this one's just sitting underneath the pivot at 0.23 pivot, sorry, getting tongue-tied. 0.253 is the pivot. We've hit the 100 MA, 200 MA on the 4 hour is sitting at about 2.7. Can get past those points. This is going to be looking interesting. So at the moment, it's like bleh. It's just, okay, it could still be going back down. So the potential opposite pattern of this, if that pivot doesn't break, so in case you're wondering what that means, so it just means that this is still in a downtrend, that it's still, this is a fourth wave and it's got a fifth wave to go. So that's the potential of the varying patterns. So if this is a correction complete, then the wave pattern is pretty much like this is an A, this is a B, and this is a C. So another way of looking at this, and this is a little bit of education, we get our trend-based fibs, we put it down, and we see how far this is pulled back. Did it hit a fib level? Pretty much, the 1.236. Now, an A and a B wave is normally, so if A is 1-to-1, then the B wave will normally go to the 1.2, it'll go 1.23, 236, sorry, or to the 1.618. So that's kind of the levels that a C wave would go to when we get our trend-based fibs. So that's how that works. So at the moment, we don't know whether this is a fourth wave and we've got a fifth wave to go, or we're breaking through at that point and we're getting more bullish. So, and then when that happens, the pivot would then move down to that wave 1, which it can't pass, because then that does mean it's bearish. So that wave 1 high is 1.9. So you could put your stop loss under that point if you got in lower, and that protects your capital. So that's where you would be putting the stop loss. So stop losses are always placed strategically, usually under a swing low or under a pivot sort of thing, if you know where they are. Gil, so this is like not got a lot of data. This was a request from X, so could be bullish, could be not. Now, if bullish, it has broken the pivot here, so that means potentially it could be, or it could be in a larger pattern ABC, which would look like this in here. So if it's, this is still a bullish pattern, by the way. So it holds this range. We've got the wave one high here. ABC holds that wave one high, which was 126, and then it continues up from there. So that would look something like this, you know, and it moved above the fib. So that means potentially this is still bullish, and may just have to finish this correction of the sideways. So the other pattern on that would be an ABCDE. It ends up doing some sort of wonky triangle, and then all of a sudden it takes off. And that's kind of what the alts are seeing at the moment. We're seeing those wonky triangle sort of patterns, and then they're taking off. So that's the potential that Giggle might do. It's flipped kind of positive, doesn't have a huge amount of liquidity coming in at the moment. That can all change, of course. So that's what I'm seeing for Giggle. ICP, now, if we're counting this as one with a truncated correction, which we're seeing on a lot of charts, we had a cross here, bullish on the daily, on the 9 and 21. At the moment, we're in a pullback. So this went to the 786, which is a really nice move. So if this is a 1, this is a 2, this is a 3. This is what I was showing you on Litecoin before. 1, 2, 3. We can come back down a bit, and more than likely it's heading up to the 236, 1.236, which is 15. So at the moment, we've got the 9 EMA holding. The 21 EMA is down around where the wave one high is, where it should hold, even if it does come back a little bit more, and then it should take off if this is still a bullish pattern. So this pivot here, as I move that out, has been breached. So I'd say we're coming up, even if we don't break this high, we could, like if we get a little bit higher, if this is an internal third wave and we're still coming up, we could even go to the 1.618. Then we're looking really nice on these moves. So this third wave could still be in play and just heading a little bit higher. So there's a couple of different scenarios with these coins at the moment. They haven't given us a firm indication as to whether they're completely bullish or they're just a little bit bullish. So we want them to be completely bullish, and we want BTC to do the same, but we haven't got that at the moment. Now Flare is in just a holding pattern. It's come back down. This is like ugly. No, normally they drop into the market in an ABC. So that's a corrective pattern. So when anything like hits the market, it hits the market in an ABC because we've got investors, seed investors, normally people that are paid to shill it are paid in Flare or whatever they received. Now this dropped in, and it was an airdrop. So everyone sells as it gets a little bit. So we've got this, and we've dropped in. We've got enough waves now that we can start heading higher. So that's a potential. We're on, you know, the bottom on the RSI. We've just ticked up on the MACD. So this is a potential mover. So we might see this starting to head above pivots. Now, first pivot, we are sitting at that at the moment, exactly where it is at this 16.14. Next pivot after that is 18.66. And after that, it is 23.78. So that's kind of where we're going at the moment. We're going to test those pivots. If they start breaking, then we're starting to get a little bit more bullish. ADA, now it just hasn't been kind to anyone at the moment, and decided to have a bit of a bounce down. Now this is the same pattern as I'm just going to bring XRP. So last week when I showed this, I had two patterns where I had a blue one that went up to the top to the pivot and then came back down. But but it decided, no, not going up to the top of that pivot. I'm just going to come back down. So we've just crossed the median line on that channel. So more than likely, we're coming up to test that pivot now for XRP. So sitting right just below the pivot here for this to go up to the next one at 2.84. So 2.53 needs to convincingly break, and then you're going to get the next pivot, and then it may start moving. So that's what we want to see. ADA's in the same exact pattern. Now this is a daily. Once this 9 and 21 EMA cross and they're bullish, that's a sign for the bots on the exchanges that trade algorithms and indicators. This will start moving. So it will start to head up to the 0.877, which is the resistance. If it doesn't break through, it's doing one more wave. So that's a potential for both XRP and for ADA at the moment. Solana starting to look a lot better. Now, this is actually just gone up as a signal in at GSIC. Now, there's a pivot here. So this is a really important pivot. So at 1.78, around that region is the first pivot. So sometimes signals only go to one wave, and that's the reason why. So if you want it, to hang in there, you want to be moving your stop loss up as it goes. So just to lock in a little bit of profit. You may not get all the profit at that point, but you may get a little bit of profit. So profit is profit after all. So if it breaks that pivot at 178, it's going to the next targets on this. Now, this is the top. If it gets to this point at the 62, that is confirmation of this head and shoulders. I'll just put it up to a daily so we can have a look. Cup and handle, sorry. And then potentially 509 is the target there. So whether that is this bull run or it continues to trend sideways for a little bit longer, but it's been in this pattern for quite some time, and Solana is normally one of the ones that moves the most. So we're just waiting and praying at the moment to see if that happens. Now, Asta this is one of my favorite ones to show you guys because it just does exactly what it's meant to do. So we're currently under resistance. We've just touched that pivot. Means it's probably going to trend a little bit sideways in here, sit in here, under here, before it sort of goes up and it's like, oh, there's a pivot there coming back down. Maybe it's going to get to here. When we get to this point, this is where it gets interesting because that's the major pivot in this pattern. And that's where we go, okay, this might be going into a new impulse. At the moment, it's not. At the moment, it's just sitting there. So it's doing exactly nothing. So we want it to keep moving at that point. So it is at the resistance. It's at the 100 MA. We want that to break out. This is also a signal in getting started. Crypto has hit 2 targets. So whoever was in this trade potentially could have had 23%. And the major resistance here is just below this last target, which is at 27. So breaking past sort of the 0.266, that puts this into a major bullish pattern. So that's kind of where we want to go from here. And last but not least is VET for Lone Wolf. Now, this is also another signal. So you guys out there watching have got 3 signals that are in at GSIC at the moment. Looks like it's just about to hit our target 1. And the pivot on this is quite high. So it's actually at 21, at 0.21. And then after that, it can keep going. But I'm going to move this up. This is actually a really nice chart longer term. So we've got the pivot is sitting up at 3.873. So if it can break that pivot there, the next pivot is up at 0.8. So there's a lot of room to move in VET. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to, but when we're looking at charts and we're looking at that sort of momentum that can happen, excuse me, from this point, it's about 360%. That's sort of old school movement. So it may not do that, but at least to this next pivot is over 100%. So that's the potential for some of these coins. And the lower the liquidity, it's quite low on liquidity at the moment. So potentially it can do that 100%. So fingers crossed we start to get some movement. I'm going to throw you back to my 30-second ad, and I'm going to grab my book and we'll see what my book of answers says the market's about to do. And welcome back. And with that, I was able to run out to my lounge room, come back, grab my book. Anyway, so here we go, the book of answers. We're going to think really hard as a collective and the collective crypto community. So, and we're going to, this is like Lone Wolf has asked for the Magic 8 Ball. I used to do this on hard forkers. I have the Magic 8 Ball and I tell you what the market was doing. So now I've got the book of answers. And I'm going to tell you as a collective now, all think, what is the market going to do over the next, until Christmas? So we've got a month and a half of that left before Christmas. That's pretty scary when you come to think of it. A month and a half to Christmas is like, okay. I better start buying Christmas presents for everyone. So get your orders in. And all right. So what is Bitcoin going to be doing? Is it still going up in a bullish pattern? So we're going to ask, is the bull run? So the question is the bull run over? All right. We're asking, is the bull run over? It's not giving me an answer. Just tells me to enjoy the experience. So, all right, we're going to ask it again. Give me a direct answer, book of answers. Let me know with a more concise, is the bull run over? It's not going to let us know. So it's listen more carefully than you will know. So obviously you should have been listening to me from the very beginning, and I've given you all the pivots on BTC, and book of answers is not going to tell us, is the bull run over? Let's have a look. We're opening. Oh. Apparently we're all too close to see. So there we go. We don't know at this point. So we're too close to the end, maybe. So let's see where we go. Anyway, you can catch me here on Inside Getting Started in Crypto, on YouTube, on X, on Instagram and TikTok. If you like quantum physics, if you like relationship, if you like, manifesting, if you like all of that sort of stuff, I drop a lot of reels out there, probably one every day or two, and just talking about stuff that I randomly like, not all crypto, like most of it you see everywhere else. So that is on Instagram and that is on TikTok. So come and follow me there. The links are in my bio on my link tree. So I will see you soon there, hopefully. And you will catch me here. If you've got any questions, always welcome to jump into GSIC and ask, or anywhere. I answer them everywhere, or try to at least when I see them. So thank you guys for watching and joining me. And don't forget to smash the like button. Smash it. Thumbs up. I'll catch you next week.